What's going on, everybody? It's your favorite dating coach, Elliot Scott, and as you can see by the title below, we're going to discuss emotionally unavailable men, why they are so hard to read, why it's almost impossible to figure out unless you listen to me, you get a session with me, or my advice and videos, why it's almost impossible to figure out if he's emotionally unavailable or not, okay? So, jumping right into this, I want to first explain the mindset of the emotionally unavailable man so you have kind of, the groundwork on where I'm coming from with a lot of these things. And I say this in a lot of my videos. I think I said in my last video, actually, a lot of emotionally unavailable men, while there are some out there who could be manipulators, who could be the biggest pieces of shits out there, who could be narcissists and stuff like that, all of them would fit under emotional unavailability, but not the whole, community, I don't want to say that, but the whole group of emotionally unavailable men fit under those categories, if that makes sense, So if you're narcissistic, I don't know, a piece of shit, a manipulator, gaslighter, all that type of stuff, you're probably emotionally unavailable, but at the same time, if you are emotionally unavailable man, doesn't necessarily mean you are those things. So if that's the case, well then, what are you? Well, what's the issue? What's your story? Guy I just started talking to. And for a lot of men, you're talking to guys who do like you, who have the ability to like, who have the ability to love, who have the ability to say and mean authentic or genuine things or gestures, right? The problem, I guess this is the definition of emotional unavailability in my eyes, which is all these guys, when push comes to shove and it starts to feel like a relationship or the pressure of a relationship, these guys retract because they have this like bottleneck, their own way of sabotaging things based on the past, whether that's their upbringing, whether that's how their last relationship went. Maybe they were cheated on. Maybe they just don't have any good experiences in relationships or with women in general, so on and so forth. It could be many things. Now, here's why it's so hard to figure out if a guy's emotionally unavailable or not until sometimes it's too late. It's because, one, of what I just said, you're talking to a guy who I think means well for the most part. However, emotional unavailability lays dormant, meaning it is inside. If you have it, I'm not saying everyone has it, but if you have it, it just isn't like out there creating chaos with women. It's not like Venom, sorry for the comic reference, a symbiote like looking for a host, like a parasite looking for a host just to take over and screw over. That's not the case. An emotionally unavailable man, he might be seeking women out because he needs security, validation, and stuff like that. I think that's a lot of human nature in general, but he's not doing it like thinking with some ill intent. Oh, like, I'm going to screw this chick over, and my whole plan is to screw her over and leave her. That's not the case with emotionally unavailable men, right? It's authentic. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's authentic. It's real. It's genuine. But the context hasn't built up, meaning the things you guys are doing and saying over time that creates the relationship vibe, the serious vibe that that makes him overthink, overanalyze, and pull away to begin with. Like, that's not around yet. It's just a guy who matches with a good-looking girl like yourself, and he's like, oh heck yeah, this is fun. And he's kind of going along with everything or going at his pace, which, yes, by the way, I guess one of the ways you can figure out if a guy is emotionally unavailable is by looking at his past. This is why I always tell women, is he newly single? Was he cheated on in his last relationship? How long has he been single? Like, if it's too long, something's up. There's a reason why. Especially if you're talking to, ladies, guys they always spill the beans. If a guy says, I'm looking for a relationship, I've been looking for a relationship, and he's been single for 5 years, and you say why, and he says, I just haven't found the right one, he's bullshitting you. So there's one way to find out. Listen, if you're a dude looking for a relationship and you're very serious about looking for a relationship and you've been dating with intent and you've been dating for 3 to 5 years and you can't find a girl, it's not the girl, it's you, bro. For the 5% of men who watch my 5% male audience, I checked the analytics the other day. That was the case. That's a clear sign. But that's one way of figuring out, I guess, looking at his dating history and stuff like that. But these guys mean well for the most part until what I say around the halfway point, like 5 or 6 weeks, you start to see a flip, which I think is another sign. When a guy's not interested, it kind of when a guy's interested and then he's emotionally unavailable, it starts up here, like high interest, and then it kind of dips off like that. Like it almost flips. It almost, ladies, leave a comment below. Leave a comment below. I'm sure you realize, oh man, things were going well, and all of a sudden, he's pulling some bullshit. Right? That's how you know a guy's emotionally unavailable. And again, the reason I'm really good at figuring it out is I like to put the pieces together. So when I have a client coming to me, for example, and I call it the character profile, they're coming to me and they're telling me the story. What I'm looking at is, okay, her as a person, as an individual, her characteristics, her traits, the pros, cons, what she's doing right, wrong, and the character in the story. Every character is flawed, but every character has a desire. Every character, is trying to reach the goal, stuff like that. And then you have this guy, same thing. He's just another character in the story. And again, my background's in literature, so it might be a little easier for me to do this. But you look at all these type of characters, and you look at a character profile, and you look at everything he's doing. You start to think why he's doing it. Why would he do that? That doesn't make sense. When those things start to stick out. And then I start asking my clients questions. Was he single? Or how long has he been single? Newly single? Oh, he was cheated on? Or maybe that might not even be the case. Maybe things were just going well, but all of a sudden it flips. But then she's telling me the story, and I'm putting the pieces together, and it's really easy to see in hindsight that a guy's emotionally unavailable. But I'm just trying to tell you guys the things I'm looking for. Usually, when it flips around the 5 or 6 week mark, a lot of women think they did something wrong, but that's not the case. Even if you had sex, here's the funny thing. A lot of women will be like, oh, he just wanted sex because a guy, let's say, pulls away after sex. That actually isn't true. I mean, yeah, he wants sex. Yeah, he's attracted to you. But sometimes if a guy pulls away after sex, let's say you're talking for 5 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, and he pulls away after sex. It's not necessarily he wanted sex. It's sex equals context. Sex is a big piece of the pie. Because if you're someone, think of it like this, ladies, and I'm not saying don't put a lot of value on sex. You absolutely should. Just don't sleep with anybody. But if you're talking to a guy and you're one of these women who are like, oh, I never do this. I only sleep with a man if it's really meaningful. And I'm not saying don't say this. You should. I'm just letting you know if the man's emotionally unavailable, you're going to get a different reaction versus someone who is emotionally available and wants a relationship with you. But if you're like, I never do this. I only, sleeping with someone's very important to me. I have a low body count. I want to keep it that way. I only sleep with men who who have good intentions and want the same thing as me, yada, yada. And then you're making him work and invest in this, and you're putting a lot of emphasis on the importance of you putting out. And then you put out, okay, that if the man's emotionally unavailable, bam, his senses heighten. He has heightened senses. The context just blew the fucking roof off. He's in his head. And the reason for that is, if you were dating for 4 or 5 weeks and things were going well, you're consistent, he's probably saying shit he fucking shouldn't say. That's another one. Pace, love bombing, and stuff like that, I guess, is another clear sign. But, future planning, that he's doing all these things. And I'm talking about guys you've met, by the way, ladies. Not guys you're talking to long distance. Not guys you're planning on meeting and stuff. I'm talking about guys who you actually meet. You're going on dates with. Guys who, you're whatever. You're in proximity. There's depth. There's rapport. There's actually a strong chance of a relationship because he lives 5 minutes down the street, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes down the street. Whatever, okay? Well, 30 minutes isn't really down the street. But if you're doing all these things, building context, and then he fucks you, and he does it good, right? He does it good. And there's this emotional attachment, and you're all cuddly after, and you really emphasize to him before you know how important this is. If he's emotionally unavailable, you're going to see a big difference the next week, which is one of the reasons I always tell women you got to wait, which I think 4 or 5 weeks is plenty of time of waiting. I'm just letting you know, like, you got to do your due diligence. You got to do your background check. You got to ask a guy what he's looking for. You got to have a guy who's consistently investing his resources over the long term. You got to have you got to look at his dating history, just all these type of things, because it is really hard but to figure out if a guy's emotionally unavailable or not. But if I had to give you 2 or 3 things, I would say, is he consistently investing his resources into you over time, whether sex is on the table or not? Meaning at the 5-week mark, is he still performing in terms of effort and intensity and likeness and curiosity, whatever adjective you want to use? Is that still on the table? Is he still really interested that far along? Because anybody can put up a facade for 1, 2, 3 weeks. Okay, if a guy truly likes you, you're going to see long term. He's going to do it until he takes you off the market. And when I say until he takes you off the market, I'm not saying like, never let a man take you off the market so he invests. No, I'm just saying like, you're going to have a guy who who wants a relationship with you. He's going to court you, and he's going to make the conscious effort of trying to take you off the market, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing I would say is the pace, the love bombing and stuff like that. I think a lot of men who, like I kind of hinted at early on, who are emotionally unavailable have some type of insecurity or reason why they're that way, and people love validation. The reason we have an ego is to align us with our goal of survival and reproduction, and when we are off that, it's like, hey, you're feeling like shit. Recover. It's trying to get you back on track. So humans love validation. Humans love security. Humans love indicators of, I call IOIs, indicators of interest, signs that someone is accepting of us or wants us and desires us, makes us feel good. So he's going to be doing that stuff and moving at a fast pace. And of course, like I said, lastly, I think one of the best signs is a man who you're doing your due diligence. You're looking at his dating history and seeing, are you emotionally available? Are newly single, cheated on? Have you ever had a serious relationship? You haven't had a serious relationship in 5 years, and you say you want one? Get the fuck out of here, dude. And of course I would say asking him if he wants a relationship. Now, could the guy lie to you about that? Yes, but you still want to frame it as such. So with that being said, ladies, if you're interested in working with me, links down below. I would love to work with you. And ladies, I do this for a living. I've been doing it for 10 years. I would love to work with you and break down your situation, give you insight that you have never even imagined about your situation, okay? If you're interested, links down below. I love you all. Take care and peace.